talk to you about the fact that there was a lot of people who couldn't tell when things were ugly. A lot of people in the news, a lot of people in media who were talking about it. We need to get back to being honest with ourselves, and we need to tell the truth when it's time to tell the truth. And some of this stuff wasn't fabulous, and you guys need to be able to say that. Okay? It doesn't need to fall down on the influencers of society or the random YouTube people like me to call a spade a spade. When that's ugly as sin, it's got to be called ugly as sin, and we don't need to act like it's real good. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Dear Denise. So today is Friday, and typically that means that we would be doing the Friday News Roundup, but not today, my friends, because there was only one news story this entire week, and that's what a failure the Met Gala was this year. The theme, super fine, tailoring black style, was a colossal mess. And it needn't have been. It's actually a pretty good theme. I liked the theme. A very specific theme, I will say. And that might have been the problem, because I think people weren't sure how they were supposed to create their own take on this. I mean, it's a narrow theme. Some themes have been quite broad, but also almost hard to pin down. I think one year they were like, real campy, kind of like ostentatious, like in your face kind of thing. And like, I don't know what that means. And another year it was like the Vatican and Catholicism. I mean, I don't know how I'm supposed to interpret that in a respectful way. And like other years, it was like fairy tale stuff, which seemed easier. And that theme was pretty good because it was like, okay, there's a lot of ways I could go and still be on theme. This theme, I think people, for two reasons, just didn't know what to do with it. One, I think they were like, I don't want to be disrespectful to the black community. Like the whole thing seemed dicey if you're a white person. Because haven't people been told for quite a minute now that you're not allowed to dress up like other races? Isn't that like a whole thing? People like freaking out, and this is cultural appropriation. And now the Met Gala was being like, let's appropriate. Now, I don't have a problem if someone wants to dress up in some clothes from another culture. Like, I'm not offended by that. But this lot seems like they're the very group of people that are trembling in their boots. So maybe it's the fear. Maybe it was the fear of doing something too ostentatious, too big. Maybe they were afraid of looking like they were mocking the culture rather than praising the culture. It was a dicey territory if you're a white person. And I feel like we had a lot of white people who were not bringing it because they were afraid to bring it. But the whole thing was kind of like had weird vibes. Because Anna Wintour, who is just a snake in the grass, if ever there was one, she decided that this was a theme that she could do because she got like a bunch of black people together. They went and hung out at the Apollo Theater in Harlem, and they talked about how this was a thing they could do. And because she got a bunch of black people to sign off on it, then her conscience was cleared. And so then she has this event in which it feels like dicey territory. And again, I like the theme. I like excellent tailoring. I love some beautiful fabrics. I love the expression of dignity in our humanity by wearing clothes that are beautiful. I hate holes in jeans. I hate looking raggedy ass all the day. I'm tired of people wandering around in their pajama bottoms. It's like, I don't hate you as a person if that's how you want to do, but I'm just like, can't we love ourselves enough to put on some clothes that are ironed? Do you know what I'm saying? Let's just generally try to care for ourselves. Let's not wear clothes that look like they've been run over by a garbage truck. Anyway, I loved the theme, but I think there was lots of people who are afraid of expressing that theme to its highest order. And I just think it's narrow. I think we were going to have to see a lot of suits. And suiting is exceptional in everyday life, but suiting isn't really what I want to see at the Met Gala. At the Met Gala, I want things like, and I'm sorry that it has to be Blake Lively, but let's just be honest about it. When she wore that dress that was inspired by the Statue of Liberty that went from copper color to green by the end of the night, fabulous. That was so much fun. I loved that. Like, that's what I want from the Met Gala. I want Claire Danes' dress that was sort of Cinderella-esque, that like lit up. It looked like the cartoon, the 1950s Cinderella cartoon come to life. It was so amazing, so beautiful. That's what I want from the Met Gala. So to say superfine black tailoring, I feel like just limited people to what was going to essentially just be a variety of different suits, some more outlandish than others, but like not an exciting theme. And then you get a lot of white people who are very nervous because not only have they been asked to dress up like black people who have been given their rights back after slavery and who wanted to wear clothing that expressed their humanity, You've got a bunch of white people who are extremely scared about cultural appropriation being asked to now culturally appropriate. This is a group that's been told time and time again, do not wear things from other people's culture. Do not show those microaggressions. Are you secretly a white supremacist that you're mocking people's culture? And now they've been told to do it. Because Anna Wintour went to the Apollo Theater with some black people, hung out in Harlem for a hot second, and got the okay that it was all right to have this theme. And so they came in boring things and took that black quite literally in the theme name and decided to wear black. You guys, this should have been a very colorful event, let me just say. It wouldn't. Also problematic, I think, was the menu. I was shocked. Now, you guys, this is $75,000 a ticket, okay? So it's not chump change. And everybody was invited to sit down to this, dinner. And the dinner was, I feel like what we've been told we're not allowed to do, which was that everyone's going to sit down and pull up a plate of barbecue, collard greens, and cornbread. Now, all delicious items, may I say. But this whole event felt like, what have we been talking about for the last 10, 15 years? I'm not supposed to culturally appropriate. And don't say that black people like certain foods. And now I'm being told, culturally appropriate. And how are those collard greens doing? You like that bacon? I like that too. Like, what am I supposed to think about this event? Anyway, that aside, let's talk about the fashion. You guys, it was so boring. And as I've mentioned, probably because the theme is very narrow. Cool theme. I love the idea of the celebration of people celebrating their human dignity after having been enslaved for hundreds of years and saying, you know what, I don't have to wear that raggedy tag junk that the master sometimes threw my way. I get to wear suits that are beautifully tailored. I get to wear my silk top hat. I get to carry my cane. I have a beautiful 3-piece suit and I look fabulous in it. I love the celebration of that. It's just a super narrow theme. So what are we going to do with that? And we have all these white people who, they don't know what to do. Clearly they didn't know what to do. Look at the way they did their edges. Okay, look at this person. All right, they were confused. Highly. So, let's get on to it. Okay, we've got many categories here. Super boring category, where we have everybody who showed up and just phoned it in. I mean, just straight up phoned it in. Like, to a shocking degree. Like, did you guys even care about the theme? Did you even? And then we have the people who got kind of kitschy with it, where, like, they took the theme and then they tried to be cute and it was like, but why? Then we have the people who, I would say, nailed the theme, but it just wasn't cute. We had a lot of that. People who got the theme, but I just didn't like the outfit. And then we had the very select few, little handful of people who nailed it 100%. It was like 3 of those people. So the Met Gala this year was just overall disappointing. The accessories bugged me. I was annoyed with how many, people I saw holding cigars. That was lame to me. I could go with the cane before I could go with the cigars. The cigar felt like real fake. Like the cigar felt like that last accessory that you shouldn't have added to the outfit. Now, I want to see the top hats. I wanted to see the canes. I'm not even opposed to a pocket watch, although if you're going to wear a pocket watch, wear the pocket watch. Don't be like this individual who literally pulled a pocket watch out of some pocket from somewhere, dangled it everywhere. I'm like, look, I got the right accessories. I mean, that was, I'm just like, people were confused about how to pull this off. Anyway, let's go through my many categories. Let's talk about the boring people, okay? There's quite a list of them. And like I said, I think the thing that offended me the most was when it says superfine black tailoring. Let's not get too hung up on the word black, okay? We're talking about a group of people here. We're not talking about the color you have to show up in. Some of y'all just could not get it. Some of y'all's outfits would have been okay if we'd had a little color, a little something, some accessories. I'll tell you, this was an event in which accessories were quite necessary. If you want to show up to this place in a white dress with a mandarin collar, which was completely off, this isn't like Celebrate China Day, where in the world are your accessories, ma'am? Where is your top hat and your cane and your pocket watch? At this point, I'd even settle for a cigar because I need something to indicate that you understand what you've been invited to. Okay? No. The people who are getting roasted are Kendall Jenner and Hailey Bieber. Kendall Jenner and Hailey Bieber showed up like they had just dug around in Chris's closet and found a couple of her old suit coats from the 80s. Huge shoulder pads, all right, fine. But what it really felt was like an exaggeration of men's tailoring in the 1940s. There was none of this superfine black tailoring that we're looking for here. Just because you have a suit on with big shoulders, y'all needed to go over some of the original pictures that were supposed to inspire you. I am inspired by nothing here. None of this says, to me, black dandyism. All this says to me is boring. If Hailey Bieber had decided to just like add a hat, add some kind of jewelry, some kind of something, some kind of cane, some kind of cape, some kind of anything. Nope, couldn't be bothered. But really, all the Kardashian women showed up and just failed. Kim showed up in this alligator monstrosity with a abbreviated witch's hat that you couldn't see out of. Kim was a mess. I mean, she was tripping all over the place. At one point, one of her fingernails is flying off. I'm like, are those press-ons? Like, how did that just happen right now? She's over there, like, hoisting up her breasts, you know. She's super uncomfortable. She can't walk. The back of her dress looks like it's going to fall off her butt. The whole look was just uninspired. And I'm like, you know what? You really just can't show up an alligator and try to say that you are superfine / black tailoring. Right? Like your little hat cocked over your eye and your little alligator print. I mean, at this point, I feel like and this was the problem that many people are going to run into. It almost looked like they were being offensive. And I know they're not. They're trying to follow the theme. But see, that was what was going to eventually happen. Everyone was going to end up looking like, if you were white, that you were wearing a pimp's costume for Halloween. And let's be honest, that is ultimately what a lot of these people looked like. This looked kind of mocking in a certain context. Even the fact that you would choose alligator, like, I don't know, it just seemed a little bit uncomfortable. So she showed up looking like a hot mess. But quite frankly, I guess honestly, of all three of the sisters that were there, Kim, Kylie, Kendall, I would say that Kim's outfit, if like those were the only looks we got to see from the night, I'd say that Kim, I guess, nailed it more than the other two. Was it boring as hell? Black? Boring? Yes. Just because she had her little hat cocked over her eye doesn't make it what it ought to be. But anyway, she shows, you know, she scooches off, and then we get to see Kylie. Kylie needs some help with her posing. Why is she posing like this? She doesn't even look like she knows how to stand there as a human being. But it isn't made better by this boring gray and black outfit. And, you know, quite frankly, she wears stuff that looks like this all the time. And that was kind of a problem for a lot of these people. They wore dresses that they typically wear, but they wore it in like black, or the dress was tight and fitted, but she always wears tight fitted things. Uninspiring, boring. Where's the color? Where's the celebration? It wasn't at this event, right? And then, of course, we've already talked about Kendall. Pan over to Kendall. Boring. So all three of them. It was a fail for all three of them. And another person who just, I was like, really? Anne Hathaway showed up looking like she was going to some kind of last dinner at a corporate seminar. I mean, a long skirt with a white button down. And I'll tell you something too. This white button down, they had crossed over to create more of a waist, but that meant that they had to leave that one button unbuttoned, and that bugged me. That bugged me. I'm like, could we not just make you a shirt that was the way it ought to be, instead of having to leave some buttons unbuttoned and now I can see that? I don't want to see that in order to create the look that you wanted, you're leaving buttons unbuttoned that aren't really supposed to be unbuttoned. Okay, I understand like leaving some buttons here unbuttoned for a tasteful amount of cleavage, but like the button down there because you needed to cross the shirt over. And, you know, if the rest of the look had been like amazing, I might be able to overlook the fact that your shirt's unbuttoned. But the thing is, this is not an amazing look. I didn't see how any of this was superfine black tailoring. Even the fact that like her shirt, which obviously wasn't superfine black tailored because your buttons are unbuttoned, was also just kind of big and froofy. I liked it. Honestly, I like that white shirt. And at another event, I'd be like, I like the way this looks. But like the shirt and skirt combo looked dressed down to me. This is supposed to be over the top. This is supposed to be a couple degrees away from the Mad Hatter. Okay? And this is not going to work, Anne Hathaway. Now, we all know you just got a new facelift, and that's what you're hoping folks will look at, all right? We get it. Whoever did your face must have been talking to Lindsay Lohan's people, okay? We get it. You're really proud of your face, and so maybe you feel like your clothes are secondary here. But look, we're not here to celebrate your new facelift. We're here to celebrate superfine black tailoring. Miley Cyrus also coming in hot with some of that black alligator. I thought we might see more fur, but I guess not, because this kind of theme, we really needed to have this theme in the wintertime. This needs to be a February event, because I would have liked to see some floor-length mink capes. I would have liked to see a lot of fur here, but instead we got the alligators. So anyway, she comes riding in hot on what looked like a cropped motorcycle jacket, no shirt. She threw on a black skirt, uninspired. And we'll get to her hair in a minute, but just for the sake of it, all of this just looked so thrown together. She had some kind of gold choker on. And that was basically all she did. She threw her hair up in a slicked back ponytail, braided it, put on a jacket without a shirt, and then pulled a skirt on. And we're supposed to just be like, ooh, superfine black tailoring. No, it's black. But where's your shirt? You know, what is happening here? I was not for the skirt-shirt combos. Let me just say that much right now. Not in it at all. And again, if you're going to go boring on the outfit, where's the accessories? I'm going to need to see a lot more capes. You know what I saw a lot, too, at this whole Met Gala was people who are in fashion who just could not manage to pull it together. Heidi Klum acted like she didn't even know what the theme had been. She showed up in a black dress, just a regular old black dress. Nothing interesting. Nothing interesting. It was a strapless black dress with a little bit of beading or something across the top. I mean, I know I've said this like 1,000 times, but in order for you to act like you understood from whence this theme sprung, we were going to need to see more than you in a black strapless dress, form-fitting with a little bit of a train. I mean, like, none of it even looked like she or her stylist or her designer had even flipped through some of the inspiration. Y'all, there was a whole display at the Costume Institute to help you make better decisions. Did any of y'all attend that before you just were like, I guess I'll wear that black dress? Heidi Klum, you're in fashion. This should have been a thing that you could have been excited about. No, not her. And Nicole Kidman was also not inspired. She showed up in this monstrosity. What is this? First of all, it's ugly as sin. But then also, not on theme. That's just a black strapless dress with a couple of double bows. Boring. We already talked about this person in their white column dress with a mandarin collar. What is this? And then we had these two individuals showing up in the same white suit. Gonna show up in a white suit. I know, like, okay, so Walter, you've been saying they need accessories. They've got hats. Okay, well, then the cut of the suit's gonna have to be extravagant. We can't just be wearing a white suit and call it a day. Like, did it not occur to them that other people would also be thinking about wearing a white suit? Now, a white suit could be done, because we saw this individual show up in a white suit. This white suit had all the things. We have the huge coat that's worn almost like a cape. The neckline of this is a little bit more interesting. Of course, we have all the jewelry, all right? But let's talk about that hat. Because if you are going to wear a white suit, our hat needs to be different. Now, this hat's kind of interesting. The hat is what makes this outfit. Now, as far as white suits go, she wins because her suit was more interesting. She wins because that coat that doubles as a cape is pretty impressive, but the tailoring underneath it is nice. We don't have a tie all the way up to our throats. We have something interesting going on. Okay, but the hat is interesting. She didn't just go with a white felt hat and call it a day. No, the hat is interesting. This wire hat that looks almost as though it were drawn. That's something to look at, okay? So if you're going to go white suit, you could have done white suit, but you're going to have to try a little harder, okay? No. Try harder? What am I supposed to, what are you talking about? I can't just put on this boring black outfit, this horrible little I'm going to a corporate dinner outfit, this boring white column dress, this dull white suit, this suiting I found in my mother's closet from 1988. Like, we're going to need to try harder here. None of these people, I mean, try harder. What are you talking about? All of these people are trying to play it safe. And this was not the event to play it safe at. Because if you're going to have to sit there and pull up to a plate of collard greens and cornbread, they've already thrown out the rules. So if you're worried about offending anybody, they've already told you, no, we want to be as offensive as possible. We never heard about cultural appropriation. We never heard about not saying that black people like certain foods. We never heard about any of that. Okay? So this was the event to Just do whatever and not be worried about mocking folks. But this category of people, they're not risk takers, as it turns out. Okay, now let's talk about the people who were trying, but it felt like real kitschy. Okay, I want to talk to you about somebody who showed up dressed like a tie. Demi Moore, what were you thinking? That was kind of silly. Now, I understand why she went there. Because the Met Gala is a place where you can get kind of creative. So I understand she was trying to be creative. I just think it was kind of stupid. This big halo around her head, and she's a tie. She literally came dressed like a tie. Like, it just seemed too costume-ish. Too kind of on the nose. You're supposed to be inspired by it, but not like dress up as something. It's like if somebody, come dressed as a top hat or something, it's just kind of like, I don't think that's what they meant to me. Maybe not that. A tie? You're dressed up as a tie? And in the same way, we had this other girl who came dressed up in a dress made out of metallic rulers, like a tailor's ruler. The dress itself, not interesting. Now, when you consider the fact that she, this whole thing had been compiled out of metallic rulers, points for craftiness, but also kind of kitschy. Just kind of like too on the nose. Like, you didn't worry so much about making the dress look like something from any of these inspiration photos, but more like, hey, we care about tailoring so much, we got all these rulers and made a dress out of them. Kind of missing the point. The point is to make a look that is inspired by it, not to make a look literally out of things you would use in, say, a little tailoring shop. So she and Demi were standing over there being kitschy. We also, now this is not so much kitschy as just like kind of whack. We had Andre 3000 showing up in, I don't even know what he was wearing, because I didn't feel like anything he was wearing was necessarily super fine black tailoring, which people say that he is an example currently in our day of black dandyism, but I didn't see it here. He showed up literally carrying a piano on his back. Well, I don't know what that means. Like, I didn't see how that fit into the category here. If the theme had been like derelict music man, homeless musical, just trying to make it as a hobo, like if it had been any kind of a theme like that, I would have been like, on point, man. Good work. He's literally carrying stuff in a garbage bag. How does that have to do with superfine black tailoring? Is he carrying his other change of clothes in the bag that he plans on changing into when he sits down to play on this piano he wears on his back? Like, was this like a story arc, but we never got to the end? I don't know. Did he forget when he pulled up to the plate at collard greens and barbecue that there was supposed to be a second act to his costume? I don't know. All I can tell you right now is I thought it was weird and like costume-ish. And I need you to explain your costumes here. You know how I feel about that. If you're going to wear a costume, there better be a damn good reason behind it. And this was, I felt uninspired. And finally, in this category, although this person will show up in another category, why are you wearing Rosa Parks' face on your underwear? Now, we've all heard about this. She shows up in a jacket, forgot her pants. I guess the tailor wasn't done with those. But they had spent so much time weaving Rosa Parks' face into her lace undies that I guess they just didn't have time to make any pants. Disrespectful. Completely inappropriate for the theme. If you're going to weave somebody's face into your undies, maybe have somebody on theme, not just like this random black person who you've heard from American culture. Rosa Parks has no business being on your undies, but also, she's got nothing to do with this event. This is like not just a celebration of black culture. This wasn't like, the theme was not like civil rights activists who have inspired us, which would have been a really difficult theme to dress for, but that wasn't the theme. To just put like a black person on your underwear because you're like celebrating black people, that's all. That is so vague. It's because she just picked Rosa Parks because she knew she was black, and that this was supposed to be like about black people, right? I guess. Stick on my undies. Inappropriate. And also, why are you making us look at your vagina? Why? Like, I don't want to. But there was a lot of people, and we'll talk about that later, who were just really wanting our eyes. Right there. Let's get into the list of almost but not cute. Okay. Alicia Keys came in dragging her comforter behind her with her husband who was in a matching outfit. And I have to tell you this much right now. I hate some matching outfits on some couples. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all just very Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake. And I don't like those vibes. I want both people to look spectacular as individuals. And it doesn't hurt if they look good standing next to each other. But like, we don't need to buy what appears to be discount fabric and make everybody something out of that same fabric. This feels like a family affair and mama got a deal on this fabric. So now everyone's got to have something made in this. The giant comforter pulled behind, I don't know. Like, I see, oh, she did the suiting. She did it in a bold pinstripe. All right, I get it. But I just didn't think it was cute. Sorry, I just didn't. Doja Cat came around wearing some kind of onesie with some shoulder pads. The only time people were loving to wear a jacket that was cut off at random places. And there was also a great love of no pants at this event. I'm sorry. I would have thought superfine black tailoring would have included pants, but a lot of the women opted out. They were too busy stuffing their shoulders to think about any britches. So we got a lot of ass cheek in our face this entire time. A lot of folks prancing. I don't know. Doja Cat I felt like was almost there. I would say that the top of it was like tailored enough, but it was just like not cute. I just didn't like the way she pulled it off. So wasn't there for that. But there's a lot of people who I feel like were excited about the theme, and then this is what we're supposed to do. Here's the Mad Hatter right here. He's the one in the middle. We want to be to the right of the Mad Hatter. Okay, we want to be not the Mad Hatter, but like inspired by. We want some interesting shaped hats. We want some big collars. We want some bold colors. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Accessories, as I've stated many of the time. But then we had people who were like to the left of the crazy Mad Hatter. And I'm talking about all trying to vie for mayor of Crazy Town. Some of these outfits were just eyesores. And that's what happened with a lot. Like, my eyes were hurting by the end of some of this because a lot of it was just tacky as all get out. There was nothing cool about it. It was just like, that's lame. And, let's talk about the White Lotus stars. So we see young Amy. She shows up wearing a conglomeration of absolute crap that has been draped all over her in no meaningful way. I am telling you right now that it just felt like whoever designed her outfit didn't even try to feel inspired. They're like, oh, I think there's something about like wearing some kind of like suiting. So they just like went to town on that. There she was with her cropped suit jacket and then some like random draping that looked like they literally had stapled it on. And then she's got these crazy shoes. She's wearing black shoes with white socks and then like what appears to be a bunch of pom-poms stuck on. It was insane. And then like her hair was kind of like a greasy mess. It was just, the whole look was sloppy, which is the very antithesis of this whole theme here. I mean, you better show up like you mean it, my friend. And this stapled on piece of fabric trailing along behind your pom-pom shoes is not going to cut it. She also came with her partner who, God love him. I mean, somebody had just decided to coordinate his little clutch in his belt, and it looked like he was playing dress up in his mom's closet. It was not where it's at. I just, like, the two of them together, I was like, oh, well, I guess you tried, but did you try hard? No. We saw Chapel Roan. She showed up, but the thing is, she just was wearing something that looks like something she would always wear. She's such a crazy dresser that this seemed like no stretch for her. Her makeup was the same as it always is. Her hair was the same as it always is. Her clothes were the same as it always is. So it didn't feel like anything new to her. Maybe if somebody else had worn this, who was like less wild in their typical everyday dress, then maybe it would have been like, okay. But it's just like, the suit was just like a lot of different colors, but there wasn't anything exemplary about the suit. Again, if you're going to wear a suit, even if it's crazy colors, we still are going to need some accessories to exemplify the era. Okay? You can't just wear a suit that's crazy. Okay? That's not going to cut it. Where's your cane? Where's your hat? Where? We saw somebody show up in what appeared to be an art project made out of a refrigerator box. Now, this was the coat that went over it. And then the under outfit looked like this. But to me, I was like, this looks like something you might do with a giant refrigerator box and a couple of markers and some whiteout tape. I liked the hat and the monocle. But the box thing, I mean, it was more imaginative. And like I said, I would way rather look at this than at some other things. I'm just saying that, did I like the way it looked? No. I thought it looked crazy, but at least they were trying. It was imaginative. I will give points where I can give points. This is way better than showing up in a column dress with a mandarin collar in white. Most of the people fell under the category of, I'm so bored, I'm about to die. And then there were people who showed up and it was just so whack, but you were like, at least they tried. At least. Somebody who wasn't trying, Rihanna, why are you wearing that coat like a skirt? Rihanna showed up and she was wearing a corset, but she's also pregnant, so that just kind of looked weird. And then she, I guess, superfine tailoring hadn't happened for her either, so she grabbed somebody's coat and wrapped that around her and wore it as a skirt. Again, some of these outfits were very much playing in your mom and dad's closet and just like coming up with crazy things and then running out and being like, Mom, look. Another cropped jacket that just didn't scream superfine tailoring to me. And then we have a guy who showed up in a literal clown costume. I mean, this is giving bozo vibes big time. The only thing that kept it toned down was the fact that the color wasn't screaming in my face. But the giant flower, the big coat, I mean, big 1950s clown vibes. I was just like, I mean, I want to like this, but those are clown clothes. And maybe this person should have been put in my other category of costumes, but why? Because this is very costume-ish to me. And then we had this person who showed up in a lot of jewelry and red leather and feathers. Now, we're going to talk later about somebody who pulled off the all-red look with such perfection that this was the only look that I loved from the Met Gala. We'll get there, but this representation of it was just too much. The feathers, all the red fabrics, all the jewelry. I mean, it was just like too much happening at one time. And see, that it was a very difficult line to straddle because either we were really boring or we were just so over the top. To be right there in the middle of just nailing the look, also showing your personality, not getting crazy with it, not getting pimpish with it, but just really nailing the look was extremely hard. And most people failed at it. Now, we have a couple of categories that we need to cover, okay? Because amongst all of this, we had some folks who, we need to talk about the people who showed up without even having thought to do their hair. We need to talk about the people who just showed up being 100% inappropriate. And we need to talk about the people who showed up wearing dirty clothes. Okay? You guys, this is $75,000 a plate, all right? Well, what are we doing? Why are your clothes so dirty? I mean, what is this? First of all, let's talk about some of these hairstyles, okay? I want to talk to you about the fact that there was a lot of people who couldn't tell when things were ugly. A lot of people in the news, a lot of people in media who were talking about it. You know, we need to get back to being honest with ourselves, and we need to tell the truth when it's time to tell the truth. And some of this stuff wasn't fabulous, and you guys need to be able to say that. Okay? It doesn't need to fall down on the influencers of society or the random YouTube people like me to call a spade a spade. When that's ugly as sin, it's got to be called ugly as sin, and we don't need to act like it's real good. Okay? I'm speaking specifically about Serena Williams. Serena Williams showed up looking like her hair had been burned off in a peroxide accident. Okay? It looked like whoever had done her hair had just added too much of the bleach and it had literally singed her hair to pieces. Okay? And she showed up in this sort of 1920s-esque sort of finger wave bob type thing. And it was an unholy mess on her head. And then we got people being like, Serena Williams showing off a brand new fabulous bob. And I'm like, y'all, if you went, if you went over to your cousin's house and your cousin was, sat you down and was like, I'm going to do your hair for you, girl. And then that's what you came out with, you'd never talk to her again. This looks like an assault. Okay? This looks like somebody was angry with you. This looks like somebody lured you in and said, I'm going to make you look fabulous, and then screwed you right over. Under no circumstance, in no world, would any normal person walk out and be like, I look fabulous. No, you don't. You look like your hair has been mistreated horribly and that too much bleach was used and that this is all that was left. And that what you should have done was consider a wig. This is terrible. I'm sorry. And we need to be able to say that. This did not work. This was not a good look. Those little baby hairs flapping there in the breeze. All that's left. And it's not cute. And it's like, maybe just, if you don't want to be mean, maybe just like, don't mention it. But like to write whole articles, look at her. Look at that bob she debuted. We're loving it. We're loving fabulous Serena. Also, by the way, Well, we'll get to it. But Serena, what are you doing? You're not. What even is this outfit? Not on theme is what this is. We'll get there in a minute. We need to talk about the girl from White Lotus. We've already talked about the outfit. An absolute, I'm desperate, I've got to pull something together in the last minute. But it also looks like she just stepped out of the shower, pulled her hair back, and was like, okay, let's go. It looks either wet or greasy, but like these like a couple of pieces of like these little tendril, like, you try to pull your hair back, but then some pieces kind of escaped in the wind, and your hair is wet or your hair is greasy, I don't know. But, you pair that with just the general look of the thing. Like, I feel sad that there wasn't at least one area you were winning. Not the hair, not the shoes, not the outfit, nothing. I mean, people were suffering when it came to their hairstyles this night. And a big problem was the fact that too many white girls were trying to do some edges, but they weren't sure what the edges were. So they were just swooping random pieces of hair across their forehead and plastering that down real good with some gel. What are these random swoops and swirls, my friends? I ask you. We didn't know how to do superfine black tailoring on our hair. We were confused as white people. And that confusion knew no bounds. We had a lot of confused people using a lot of gel on a lot of hair that didn't need to be slicked down and swooped around. Okay, well then we talk about the fact that we saw this individual who, out of utter desperation, decided to do their hair in what I can only say looks like a turd. But what is that? That looks like something squatted on your shoulders and left you a surprise. What is that? That is not what's up. You could have done anything. Why were we doing that? I want to talk to you for a second about Pamela Anderson. Okay, you guys, some of these bobs, Serena Williams bob, it looks like, she got her cousin to do her hair. But also, Pamela Anderson was like, don't forget me, I'm in line too. She also looks like she was screwed over by a family member who failed beauty school. Why is she wearing her hair in this way? I was behind her when she wanted to do the no makeup thing. I thought, okay. I like to wear a little bit more makeup, but if that's what you want to do, you spent years and years of your life wearing makeup, and now you just don't want to. And it's definitely not that she's wearing no makeup. She's just wearing more minimal makeup. Okay, fine. That's great. Good for you. But we need to have a hard stance against these baby bangs, as they're calling them, because all that looks like is somebody who got a hold of Mama's scissors when she wasn't looking and then just went to town, and then they had to salvage it. And this is what they had to come up with. But I think I'm so offended by, if you're going to do the crazy bangs that are too short, let's at least make them straight. Okay? This is a hack job. Okay? And, I'm already offended by the fact that Pamela Anderson showed up in something that was so off theme, I cannot even. But then to show up with this hairstyle, and again, no makeup, it's like, well, and no accessories. Nothing to redeem this person, but the hair, I mean, you almost couldn't even pay any attention to anything else about her because the haircut was just so egregious. Of course, we have Miley Cyrus showed up. She's always on our list of what is going on with your hair. She showed up and they'd slicked her hair back and put it in a ponytail and braided it. And I'm like, are you getting ready to work out? That's an I'm about to go work out hairstyle. That isn't like I'm going to one of the biggest events of the year that costs $75,000 a plate. And my picture will be everywhere. Hairstyle. I mean, it just felt like her whole look was so phoned in. She and the girl from White Lotus need to stand together and just be phone-in friends, because your outfit was phoned in, your hairstyles are phoned in. If you're going to come to this thing, come to this thing. What is this? But finally, I have to ask you, what is happening here? All right, now, this outfit that looks like it's made out of duct tape is already not one of my favorites. I really was not into the skirt and shirt look, but especially when your shirt is literally 3 pieces of duct tape across your boobs. Please. But when she turned around to show us that she was wearing fishing lures in her hair, I just was like, I throw my hands up at you. What is this? You didn't want to try? Also, this look is just not, I don't feel like, on brand with the theme. This looks like something you could wear to any red carpet. The skirt, the bra shirt, the jacket. And she's over there turning around and showing us her bony back, that's really going to appeal to us. But maybe it was because she wanted to show us that she had included some fishing lures in her hair. What are the fishing lures supposed to exemplify? How is this on theme? I've never known any black people to wear fishing lures in their hair. Not now, not ever, not in any pictures I've seen. correct me if I'm wrong, but what is the deal with the fishing lures? I think the thing that is so annoying to me about this outfit is that it just looks boring. It's gray, silverish color, but then it just doesn't hit any of the themes of the event. Duct taped boobs and fishing lures? I mean, were any of y'all trying? No. All right, so those are all the people whose hair were just really painful. And I realized as we were talking about that, because there was so much overlap in this section, was that I didn't even remember to say that there's a lot of people who showed up random and off theme. Okay, so our hair was whack, but worse than that, our clothes were out to lunch. The random off theme people were mighty, and they came on strong. And I think it's because a lot of them just were like, that theme scares me. I don't know how to do it. It's too narrow, and I'm also afraid people will say that I'm mocking. So I better just come showing up in anything. But, I mean, and some of the people who showed up in just their own thing were Black people who shouldn't have been afraid of the theme. They could pull it off and no one was going to say anything about them. But I just think some people are like, I don't like that theme, so I'm going to do my own thing. Now, Gigi Hadid, people said, oh, look at her just show up. She's not even wearing black or like a subdued color. Everyone else is in black. Y'all shouldn't have even been in black. I didn't even understand where that came from. I never understood why everyone was in black. The title is Superfine Tailoring Black Style. It doesn't mean you have to wear black, you dimwits. So for Gigi Hadid to show up in gold, I'm not offended. Thank God someone was paying attention. Her inspiration had been Josephine Baker. And there's all sorts of pictures with her hair and her clothes exactly as Gigi Hadid showed up. So I'm here for what she did. She was great. But there were people who truly were transgressing what the theme was. One of those people was this individual. I don't even know who this is. Why did you show up in a Victorian nightgown? What is happening with this? You look like you're ready to haunt something. This is a person who did not care about the theme and was going to show up in whatever. And she liked the purple and she liked the way the sleeves felt. You can see she really enjoys the bell on the bottom of those sleeves. And that's really what she was here for. She didn't really care about the superfine tailoring part of it. Other people who just were disappointing me to no end. This dress looks like something that you picked up at a thrift store as you anticipated the homeschool prom. Having gone to a homeschool prom myself, I can speak with authority on this subject. This looks like something that you were like, I think I can make this work. And I don't really have a budget for this, so I'm going to have to try to like make it interesting and then show up and act confident in it and try to pull it off, which is much of what my life has been. And I'm here to tell you, you never can pull it off, but this is egregious. Why are we tying what appears to be slips? Like you took like a bunch of long slips and then you like tied them around the front to make it sort of some interesting details, but like all of this is a mess. This just has some homespun vibes. That's all I'm saying. Then I want to talk to you and let's touch once more on why is Serena Williams in this satin thing that has nothing to do with superfine tailoring. Again, so many of these outfits were just things that I have seen these people wear to like this kind of thing at any red carpet. This is not the event to just wear a dress that you liked. Okay, this is not the event to wear the same shape you always wear. I saw so much of that. I've seen you people in the same thing before. We have to try harder. Okay, and Serena, your finger wave bob is not enough to get you through this evening. Let me tell you. As I mentioned before, Pamela Anderson. What are you thinking? She was like, yeah, this fitting for this dress because it was so tailored. There was quite a few fittings for this. And I'm like, is it though? It just looked boxy. It looked like she couldn't move in it. She looked kind of frozen all night. And so between that crazy haircut and the way she had to move in that dress, there was something sort of robotic about her all night. But the dress was, okay. I can believe there was some intricacy in that beading. It was magnificent in the sense of the beading probably took a long time. I feel the same way about Anne Hathaway's skirt. The beading is the only redemptive feature here. But why are you wearing that? Why did someone work so hard for you to be out of place and out of step with the theme? I just can't even imagine working so hard but to what end and to what purpose? Then we had this individual who showed up in like a sparkly spandex suit with a long leopard coat. And this just was trashy. This was not on point. I'm sorry. No. If you had wanted to wear like a suit under that long leopard coat, all right, okay. But the spandex sparkly suit just seemed like, y'all, somebody has been down to Rainbow and found something to wear to this event. And this needs to be shut down. It needs to be shut down. Okay. We've hit boring. We've hit they tried too hard and it got kitschy. We've hit almost but not cute. We've hit going to crazy town. We've talked about the hair horrors. We've talked about the people who showed up random and off theme. But there were also people who showed up in dirty clothes. One of the individuals being Anna Wintour. Oh, you guys. Now, she didn't come in looking like a filth pot, but you dripped on your skirt, Anna. She's got like on this white dress, which honestly wasn't really on theme if you ask me, but that's just me. You know, she can meet up in Harlem with some black folks at the Apollo Theater and discuss that it's going to be okay, but then she clearly didn't think it was going to be okay and opted out. But you got something on your dress there, Anna. You got a little something on that white dress you chose to wear. Horrors. But that's not even so bad as this. Here's Madonna showing up in a white suit, boring the heck out of everybody. Not fitted, not cute. Nothing about this was exciting. I was so bored by what she wore. And then I scanned down these satin pants only to find that the hem is filthy. But I just need to understand why you would choose to wear a white satin pant in the first place to an event that you don't believe you can keep the clothes clean. Of course the hem on a pant that long is going to be wrinkled. Of course the hem on some pants that long are going to be wrinkled and filthy by the time you get to wherever it is you're going. It couldn't be otherwise. Just walking from your car into the event, they're going to get dirty and nasty. And they did. And it looks trashy. I'm just going to say it. It didn't look good. She didn't look good. The white suit was boring. Only one person who pulled off the white suit. We've already talked about it. And even that, I wasn't like, I'm flabbergasted with amazement at how good this looks. It was just like, well, if you had to wear a white suit, we could have gone this way. But let's talk about what was inappropriate. Because there were some looks. We'll leave the best for last. Now, of course, we've already covered Rosa Parks' panties. Okay? No, not her literal panties, but her face was there. We've already talked about the girl in her Rosa Parks panties. Inappropriate. Don't draw my eyes anywhere, okay? I resent that you would have put that anywhere. You couldn't have had like a Rosa Parks pin if you felt so inclined, if that was the only black person you'd ever heard about from history. Which, again, what? You couldn't give me a pin? What about a hat with a little Rosa Parks, I don't know, another little pin, kind of brooch, well, you know, maybe some jewelry, maybe put Rosa Parks' face on the back of your watch. I mean, I don't know, anything. But right there, on the crotch. It's just like so rude to Rosa. And it's like, if people were worried about microaggressions or I don't want to look like I'm mocking people, you just like went for the pied de resistance and insulting and mocking people. You know, it's like there was a way to make this all classy and everybody could have gotten through the fire and nobody could have been scorched. And then you decided to put a black woman's face on your crotch. A historic black woman's face was on your crotch at this event that's supposed to be honoring super fine black tailoring. And that's where you decided to go with it? I mean, we could have gotten out of this unscathed and then you had to go there. Okay, well, but then also, why did Lizzo want to show us all of her cleavage? See, there was a couple of people there who like didn't get it right when it came to their boobs. What's happening with the bra situation here? You know, your breast should be pushed up, not spilling out of the cup. Not so that I'm like, why is there so much meat hanging over the top of that? We need to make sure that our bras are helping us, not hindering us. And that looks whack. Meanwhile, Lizzo couldn't have been persuaded to wear a bra. Finally. Halle Berry decided to show up for the first time in so many years. She decided to come to the Met Gala. You know, it's a celebration of black people, so she's going to show up, you know. This is a serious actress, someone who's won Oscars before. She has nothing to prove. Lots of people say she's one of the most beautiful people in the world. She does not need to ride the coattails of any sort of stunt in order to gain recognition. She has all the recognition she needs. But she decided to show up and just give everybody an eyeful of all of her nether regions. You guys, we need to be above that. The immaturity of trying to get eyes on you by exposing parts of your body that should not be exposed to the general public is so pathetic and desperate. It just shows such a gluttony for praise. Like, I must be noticed at all costs. I must have people talking about me at all costs. I'm going to show up with barely a strip going down the front of me so that if I am to walk in any direction, I will be exposing myself. There's no chance that she did not expose herself to somebody. And I'm not saying that underneath there she didn't have like something covering up what was happening, but there was enough that we were seeing that we were being exposed beyond anything we wanted. It's just so offensive. Like, please, we don't want to see it. We don't need to see it. I should not be looking at that. Why are all these people showing up without their clothes on? You know, and usually this is relegated to people who couldn't get your eyes on them unless they did something crazy. Right? I mean, we have like, this is like Chrissy Teigen kind of behavior. This is like Bianca Censori kind of behavior. These are the antics of celebrities that you don't even know about. This is not Halle Berry's place to be. She needs to cover herself up and have some dignity. And to not show up at an event for all of these years would have been enough of a change in the pace that she lives to finally show up to one of these, that she didn't need to pull a stunt about it. Just, oh, look, Halle Berry's here. She hasn't been here in 12 years or whatever. Okay, then you could have just shown up looking elegant and awesome, but instead you had a flash vagina, you know, because we're supposed to all sit up and take note that you're here. We finally come to the winners. And like I said, there was but a mere handful, okay? In my estimation, there were only 3 or 4 people who managed this. I am loving the pale blue suit here with the floaty cape, okay? I feel like we hit all things. We weren't boring. We weren't wearing black. We got a color in there. We have a cape and a hat, and the superfine tailoring was present. Okay, so check, 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 and check on this item. Another person worth mentioning was I did like Serena Carpenter's look. I felt like it was imaginative, it was on theme, it was interesting, and it still showed her personality. That was a hard thing to do. Also, she has really nice legs, so this look worked for her. I liked the long tuxedo tails. I thought that was a fun way to make it quirky and interesting and not boring. Like, a lot of people were doing like the coats with no pants, and they were doing this kind of, I don't know, like almost like a Playboy bunny look, but I feel like we needed more on the top here. Like, we couldn't just go with this like little romper with big shoulders. I really felt like we needed something more, and I feel like Serena brought that by including the long tails. So I liked that look. This look was good from the waist up. The Louis Vuitton was on trend. The hair, I loved the natural hair. Yes, there is a cigar, and I thought that was kind of stupid and costume-ish, but at the same time, it really worked with this look. Unfortunately, from the waist down, ouch factor. Now, I have seen pictures as I was looking over like through the whole like black dandyism thing, that the shorts, okay, I get it that is a thing. I just personally, yuck. They just look stupid. I'm sorry. I didn't like them. I don't want those shorts. I would have liked some nice tailored pants, personally, for myself. But the rest of the look was excellent. I liked the color palette. I liked the whole look. The vibe was on point. Pure and simple. But the best look was this one. All the things were happening here. We had the exquisite tailoring. We had the excellent fabrics. We had all the accessories. We had this 1800s shape to the whole thing. I mean, it was check, check, check. If they were like this person won the Met Gala, if there was an award that could have been given out for somebody who got it, it was this person. They knew what they were about. It was head to toe one color, but it was excellent. This was much better done than the other person we saw, who was trying to do an all like red look, but then we had too much going on. There was jewels and feathers and lace and all this junk. No, this was the red look that won. So we had to come through all those looks to find one person who got it. I feel like the best ones were the Louis Vuitton outfit and then the all red outfit. And the Louis Vuitton one from, I would say, waist up, I mean, could it get better? No. Waist down, I have to detract points, but like those two looks were the looks that got it. Those were the people who understood the assignment. And everybody else was just delirious. They didn't know which way to turn. They didn't know what to do. It came down to, I don't want to make a mistake. And maybe if I try to curl my edges / just glue some random pieces of hair to my head, I'll have gotten it. And that's all I have to say about the Met Gala. It was, just to reiterate, a super narrow theme with a lot of people who are afraid to execute it. And so it was just a really boring fiasco of an event. It does seem like it kind of veered on an almost racial sort of, I don't want to say racist, but it does seem like it was kind of a dangerous theme. And it is very confusing. It is very confusing to tell people you cannot appropriate the look of another culture. You cannot say that Black people like to eat collard greens and cornbread, and then invite people to an event and say, I want you to show up to this event as a white person. I want you to comb through these pictures and pick out the stereotypical aspects of this culture's fashion moment. And then I want you to recreate that. And we're not going to call it cultural appropriation. We're going to call it a celebration. And then I would like you to come and eat some barbecue cornbread and collard greens. Okay, I want you to pay $75,000 for this opportunity. And I don't want you to be nervous or scared. You're okay. It's okay. We've said it's okay because I met with some Black people in Harlem at the Apollo Theater. So they've signed off on the fact that white people can sort of like mock and make fun of this era. It's not mocking and it's not making fun. It is a celebration. So, I mean, don't look too much like a pimp, but try hard. If you end up looking like a pimp at a Halloween party, you've gone too far. Okay, pull back. We're thinking a little bit more Mad Hatter, but also just don't be boring about it. Okay, because if you are boring about it, then it's going to look like you don't care about Black people and their cultural fashion. Okay, so don't do that. But also make sure that it is enough like the pictures. Make sure that you've pulled enough of those stereotypes out so that people know that you get and enjoy the theme. Okay, so make sure you're styling that line. But anyway, good luck. Good luck with this. I mean, I just feel like this really set up a lot of people to fail. So it was pretty boring. I hope next year they come up with a better theme. But who's coming up with these themes? I think that's the other thing I don't get. Some of these themes, as I've said before, are just really difficult to emulate and like to totally understand what they're talking about. So as much as it's easy for me to criticize this theme, I don't know who's coming up with it or why it's so hard for them to come up with themes, or maybe since they've been doing it since 1948, it's just they've like run the gamut of all the themes. Anyway, it was a strange event, and clearly a lot of people thought they were going to lose anyway, whichever way they went. So it was really just a loss for all of us because everyone was too scared to do anything good, right, decent, or interesting. And that's what I have to say about that. I'll see you guys later this week. We're continuing to read the Martha Stewart book. If you still have not joined us for the Martha Stewart book, my friend, you are missing out on one of the juiciest reads we've ever done on this channel, and we have read some crazy books on this channel. But the Martha Stewart book continues to give and give and give and give and give some more. I'm loving it, and I would love it if you would join us too. All right, I'll talk to you guys later, and tell me in the comments which outfit you thought was the best one and which one you thought was the absolute worst. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.